last few decades, the car market has been extremely strong, not just from a dealership and consumer perspective, but also from an investment perspective as well. You see, over the last several years prior to the pandemic, not only have there been what seems to be an endless supply of vehicles to buy, but there's also been an endless supply of buyers looking to purchase a car, paying a variety of interest rates and purchase prices for these vehicles. And this created the perfect scenario where investors could come in and make money off of this strong, profitable, and reliable market by buying bonds backed by auto loans. Auto asset-backed securities, otherwise known as auto ABSs, are structured finance securities that are collateralized by auto loans and leases. For example, ones held by prime or good credit borrowers, or alternatively ones held by subprime or poor credit borrowers. The way that it works is an investor, or more commonly an investment group, will buy millions, if not billions of dollars worth of bonds that are backed by auto loans. These bonds are made up of loans that are owned by everyday consumers like you and I, and as people pay the interest on their vehicle loans that they have, these investors make money. Over the years, investing in auto loan asset-backed securities have been considered an extremely safe investment. In fact, losses within the auto loan ABS industry are essentially unheard of, dating back all the way to the 90s whenever this type of bond began to gain traction. But like any market, sometimes they flip, and once strong, profitable markets become weak and volatile. And that is exactly what is beginning to happen with the auto loan bond market. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. Whenever we look at the auto loan asset-backed securities market, there's really two key reasons why this market has grown so much over the years. Number one, an increase in car prices, and number two, a lack of regulation. It's no secret that Americans have an obsession with cars. Not only do the majority of US cities essentially require their residents to own a car in order to function, but we as a society have put such an emphasis on owning nice cars, so people spend an astronomical price on used vehicles each and every year. And as we sit here today, the average price for a used car is right around $27,000. But it's not just our obsession with cars and car debt that has fueled this market. It's also the lack of government regulation as well. Unlike home loans, where post-2008 there's been a ton of scrutiny placed on who qualifies and what factors play into qualification, auto loans are relatively unregulated. And for the most part, it is very easy to get approved for an auto loan, even if it's something that you technically can't afford. Dealerships and financial institutions are known to fudge numbers, extend terms, and give insane interest rates as a way to get people into cars that they want, regardless of the affordability factor. Dealerships don't require tax returns, they oftentimes don't require pay stubs, and unless you're somebody who's buying something like an ultra-luxury or exotic vehicle, it's going to typically be very easy for you to get a loan for the car that you want to buy, which has been great for dealerships and has created a booming auto industry in the United States, but it's created a car market that's built on the foundation of lofty debt. Because just like in 2008, the unscrutinized method of issuing loans works until it doesn't. And similar to 2008, people pay their loans until they don't. And I believe that right now we are seeing a perfect example of the phrase, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. You see, historically, whenever it comes to auto loan asset-backed securities, there have been two key factors that make this investment vehicle relatively safe. Number one is the belief that people are inherently going to pay their car debt, even if economic conditions are less than ideal. And secondly is investor protection measures, also known as over-collateralization. And let's first talk about that first factor, the belief that people are in general going to pay their auto loan even if the economic situation gets rough. Auto loan asset-backed securities have largely been considered a safe investment because of this idea that people need a car, and because of that, if somebody lost their job or finances become tight, a car similar to a house is going to be one of the very last things that people default on. But the thing is, over the last couple of years, as the car market has been booming and as auto loan asset-backed securities have been exploding, the economic conditions have been near ideal for this market and business to thrive. High car prices, an influx of cash for buyers to spend, and other bills like student loans have been paused, leading to people feeling like they have more money to spend than they probably do. And this has in turn led to more and more people buying more and more vehicles at a higher and higher price point, which is why over the last couple of years, between 2020 and 2022, the amount of auto loan debt withheld in the United States has increased by over 28%, And today in 2023, it's even higher. Today, the cost of living is higher, debt repayments on things like student loans are resuming, stimulus in cash has dried up, and unemployment is expected to increase. And now buyers are stuck holding the bag on car debt that they thought that they could afford. This is in turn leading to an increase in repossessions and delinquencies. But the blame can't entirely be placed only on the borrowers that are failing to pay. Blame also needs to be put on the bondholders that are letting their guard down with this debt. Which brings me to point number 2, which is investor protections, or what is called over-collateralization. Over the last couple of decades, losses in the auto loan ABS industry have been incredibly rare. In fact, they are largely unheard of, and this is in large part due to what's called over-collateralization, which means that when an auto loan bond is issued, the amount of loans backing the bonds exceed the size of the principal of the bonds. This means that some borrowers that are within that bond group can actually default without having a negative effect on the bondholder. But as the car market began to shift earlier this year, for some investors and bondholders, investor protections began to be put on the back burner. Now keep in mind that in the world of auto loan asset-backed securities, bonds held by primarily prime borrowers are considered safer, but they're also considered less profitable because of the fact that these borrowers are good credit borrowers. They're less likely to default on their loans, but they're also paying a lower interest rate. While bonds containing subprime borrowers are considered more risky, because subprime borrowers are more likely to default, they are also significantly more profitable because these borrowers are paying a higher interest. In an ideal world, you would have the right balance of prime to subprime borrowers within a bond. That way you're mitigating and leveling out your risk. But in the last 2 years, subprime auto loan asset-backed securities have increased by 70%. And just this year, 2 dealership groups closed, U.S. Auto Sales and American Car Center, both of which were groups specializing in subprime auto sales. Prior to their closure, they sold billions of dollars in asset-backed securities. And according to a Citigroup report from this summer, the over-collateralization of one of the more recent U.S. auto bonds has fallen to just 5.5% compared to the target of 35%, which means that that bond is significantly more risky than it should be. And keep in mind that these bonds are consisting of millions, if not billions of dollars in auto loans. And according to a Bloomberg expert, while this type of over-collateralization certainly isn't the norm in the auto ABS market as of now, it is significantly more common than it should be and could inevitably result in the failure of potentially billions of dollars in bonds. As of now, annualized losses for not only subprime but also prime auto loan asset-backed securities are growing, with losses for subprime ABSs increasing to 8.32% in recent months. But it's not just the bonds themselves that are biting investors in the butt. It's also regulation. I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why the U.S. car market has grown so much over the last few decades is because the car market is largely unregulated whenever it comes to the financial arm of this business. People can, for the most part, get approved for any type of car loan within reason, even if that car loan is something that's well above what they can afford at an insane interest rate and has to be stretched out to 84 months. But this unregulated wild, wild west environment for auto loans is quickly changing. And in the last year alone, the amount of government scrutiny surrounding the auto loan industry has been quickly increasing. For example, in the last 12 to 18 months, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Federal Trade Commission have gone after and challenged what we would consider shady dealer tactics. Things like junk fees, deceptive statements, bait and switch, and more. The FTC also has proposed the Motor Trade Regulation Rule, which would ban many of these same tactics. Earlier this year, the New York Attorney General sued the Credit Acceptance Corporation, or CAC, for hidden finance charges, claiming that the CAC encourages dealers to manipulate vehicle prices. They also claimed that the CAC made loans without regard to consumers' ability to repay those loans, and that the CAC actually benefited when customers default, thus actually incentivizing the company into giving bad loans. The point is, over the last few years, the car market has really shifted. The stakes of bad car debt have increased as car prices and the amount of car debt has increased. At the same time, predatory practices on the part of dealerships and financial institutions have become increasingly more and more common. The business of investing in auto loan debt has been booming, and at the same time, the sheer volume of debt that auto borrowers have has also increased and has gone through the roof. But now it does seem as though the tides are turning. The business of investing in auto loan debt has become more risky. It is harder to get approved for a car loan than it has been in recent history, and the government is watching auto lenders closer than they've ever been watching them before. Truthfully, at this point in time, I think the car industry and the auto lending industry is long overdue for a massive overhaul. And I think that all of these signs discussed in this video indicate that we might be in for one in the coming years. The question is, though, will this change come before it's too late? And for that, only time will tell. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.